When have you seen the real world hit a spoiled brat? Story 1. One of my favorite things about the military is that, in a uniform, nobody can tell how privileged or unprivileged you might have been. It's a total blank slate, and for many, it's humbling to not get to or have to wear your social status on your sleeve. On my second ship, there was a private who grew up very wealthy and wasn't nice about it. He wasn't afraid to let us know. He thought that he was better than his peers. There's a stereotype of the enlisted guy who thinks of himself as an officer, as a way to pretend that means anything. That's this guy in every way, and he would try to get out of enlisted work because he was going to be an officer, probably even a commanding officer of a ship. So there we were, a few hours into his first deployment, and this dude gets violently seasick. It lasted for days. I don't know if you've ever been around someone who can't open their eyes without yakking, but it's awful. You really feel bad for them. It's hard to watch someone go through that. Not with this guy though. Story 2. When my brother was in school, he became a target for being autistic, and his tormentor was the most entitled little POS I've ever had the displeasure of meeting. His father paid for boxing practice, karate lessons, and other martial arts. This made him think that he was the best at anything physical. My brother isn't overly fond of sports and prefers to read in the library. As the typical nerdy kid, he is a prime target for people like that. One day, when that guy had cornered my brother up against a wall, my brother finally decided that he wasn't going to take it anymore. But he strongly dislikes violence, and thus would not be fighting back. Instead, when the guy tried to punch him, my brother ducked. 3 broken fingers and a trip to the hospital later, the guy's father finds out what had been happening. All his extra classes/training were cancelled. He had all of his electronics and games sold, and if he wanted to have a car, he would have to work for every penny himself. Story 3. When I went to US Army basic training, that's where it hit most people. One in particular was indeed spoiled. She was one of those "daddy is important" type gals. According to my battle buddies, she doesn't clean or know how to do laundry. And oh, the attitude. She gave so much attitude. Week 5 and the drill sergeants had enough. We formed up and, as you can guess, called her out. The females were told to watch her and to adjust her attitude. After weeks of struggling to do basic chores, she started to improve. Week 9 and she is everyone's friend. Basic training will make or break you, and in this case it made her become a better person. Story 4. My dad owns a bar, and one night there was this rich kid with his friends. Both shoes without socks, the whole thing. He was giving one of the bartenders a tough time because he was on the shorter side. This kid was bothering the bartender for about half an hour until finally he got my dad to come out. My dad basically yelled at the kid about how the bartender enlisted in the military and fought in Afghanistan, and how ashamed he should be to make fun of an honest, hard-working veteran for his height. The kid left the bar nearly crying, and I hope that experience helped him change for the better. Story 5. In a traffic jam, someone uses a shoulder to skip ahead and save time because they are more important than everyone else, and gets pulled over very quickly afterward. Seen a couple of videos of it, but saw it with my own eyes a few weeks ago. It was a beautiful thing. Story 6. When I joined the army, the guy who had the infantry tattooed on him didn't even last 2 weeks in basic training. He cried and yelled. I shouldn't have to get yelled at to do something. Story 7. When I was working at a public library, we had a few local celebrities come in from time to time. Most of them were nice, but one had a real stick up his behind. He would complain about having to stand in line and about late fees and about everything else. We would just say sorry, those are the rules, or thank you for being patient, even though he wasn't. One day he and I were apparently both having a bad day, and when I told him there was a limit on how many DVDs or video games he could check out at a time, he slammed his hands on the desk and raged. Do you know who I am? This is a grown man, mind you. I was a little college student who barely looked old enough to drive. I was sick of his attitude, so I just looked at him and said, "Yes, I do, Mr. X, and the rules still apply to you. Which of these would you like me to put back?" He was stunned. I don't think anyone had ever actually told him that the rules for everyone else did in fact apply to him as well. He was a little nicer after that. Not a lot nicer, but still. Story 8. Back in engineering school, one of my classmates was the son of one of our professors. Now, this professor was a really nice dude. He paid attention to his students, his classes were fun, and he rarely failed anyone. His son, on the other hand, was a total clown, rude and nasty, and would always brag about how his dad was a highly senior professor with tenure. You know who my dad is, right? Was literally his catchphrase. He wasn't even a good student. We rank GPAs out of 10 and he was a 4. This professor actually taught a very specialized course, so we only had about 2 courses from him in our entire time at the school. This course in our 5th semester was a bit complicated. If you didn't do regular study, it was easy to fail, but if you practiced the stuff, passing it was a breeze. So, finals came around, and the clown is out there bragging that he didn't need to study because his dad will pass him anyway. He took this confidence all the way to the exam hall, and then the results were out. He scored 7 out of 100. We know because the professor called us all to the classroom and displayed his answer sheet on the projector. According to him, he was the third student who had failed in his 20-year teaching career, and that he couldn't be more disappointed that it was his son. The amount of verbal whooping the clown received was enough to have him quivering like a wet cat in front of everyone. The next time he pulled the "Do you know my dad" card, the standard answer he received was, "The one who failed you?" He stopped pretty soon after that. He retook the exam the following year, failing again, and had to drop out. Wherever he is today, I hope he learned his lesson. Story 9. Sorry about the length. I was a school bus driver in the 70s. During the height of court-ordered busing, I ferried poor kids to the rich side of town, and then rich kids the other way. Lots of entitled brats, but one stands out. Super entitled kid, constantly defying rules. Eventually, I caught him with too many witnesses attempting to set a bus seat on fire with his lighter. School officials were called, hearing with officials enriched Dad, and he's banned from all buses rest of the semester. Dad offers to pay for the damage and quietly accepts the punishment. Then comes the surprise. The next morning when I arrive at 6 a.m. to clean my bus, a regular task every morning, the rich kid and Dad are standing there. The dad introduces me to my new personal bus cleaner for the rest of the year. He brings the kid every morning and forces him to wash and clean the floors of my bus before taking him to his school. By the end of the year, the entitled kid is actually working hard and being friendly. We're getting along pretty well and I help him out sometimes, so he can get on to school. The kid turns out okay when all is over. Good move by his dad. Story 10. Spending $40 on food a day is not normal. A college girl got cut off from her parents for drinking and not going to class, and had to get a job. She put on social media about how she's gonna go hungry and needs money. People offered her food to make her dinner. She said, "That's okay, I just need about $40 to get through the day. I don't like to go grocery shop." Added, if you're wondering how she went through that much a day, she always ate out at a restaurant and had Starbucks twice a day. Add in snacks and alcohol and there's $40 in one day. Story 11. When the high school principal's daughter, who previously got away with all kinds of garbage behavior, vandalism, drinking, humiliating other kids, got caught vandalizing a lecture hall in uni, she was unceremoniously dumped and banned. Parents whined for months on social media about their poor baby's unfair treatment and the fact that her applications to other universities were being denied. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and activate the bell button to receive notifications to my latest videos.